weight loss. That's what motivates people initially. Dropping 2 sizes, feeling better in their skin, looking better naked, all that stuff. But you actually give them what they need on the inside, which is a better perspective on life, on themselves. And those breakthroughs that they eventually have that have nothing to do with the scale or their pant size are really what we're about. And you see it in a lot of our client wins. I didn't realize this was the true prize. I was so fixated on this being a weight loss program, and sure, I got that, but this is actually where the value was.
Hello, everybody. This is the Winning in Winnipeg podcast, where I talk to top performing business owners, executives, entrepreneurs, and local Winnipeg celebrities. I get to learn who they are and how they think, and I get to hear their perspective about what's really going on in Winnipeg and their businesses. Today on the podcast, we have Mitch Calvert. Mitch is a Winnipeg-based fitness coach that first found his passion for fitness after losing 60 pounds, completely changing his life, and then made it his purpose to help others transform theirs too. Mitch has a background in creative communications, as well as writes a column in the Winnipeg Free Press. Mitch has been featured in Men's Health magazine, trained clients all around the world, and has over 1,000 success stories that he has as proof that he does as coaching. Thanks for being here.
I appreciate the invite.
I bet you I missed a lot in there.
No, that was pretty thorough, actually. I didn't pay you to say that, so it sounds pretty good. I'll have to try to deliver now.
Well, thanks for coming. So you are my first fitness coach on the podcast.
Wow,
so that is nobody can ever take that away.
I love it.
From you. Yeah. Fitness, sports, all that has always been really big in my life. So I think we have lots to talk about. You weren't born in Winnipeg. Where were you born and when did you come here?
Northwestern Ontario. So it actually is a suburb of Dryden. You may have heard of Dryden, small community on the Route 90 or the Trans-Canada. So Eagle River, Ontario, though. About 300-400 people. It balloons in the summer as a fishing community. A lot of people come up from the US. Yeah. But quite small. Nice. Dad moved here for an opportunity when I was around 10. Okay. So I consider myself a Manitoban, Winnipegger. Yeah. But there's still kind of a part of me that likes fishing and all that outdoorsy stuff because of my upbringing. Yeah.
Well, that was I was kind of leading you into my second question as far as it's minus 28 outside right now. Why Winnipeg? Why base everything in Winnipeg? Why run your business from here? Why Winnipeg?
Yeah, well, the weather thing wasn't an issue because it's no different in Dryden. You know, you grow up with the same cold, maybe a little bit less wind because they're sheltered by trees and hills. Yep. But in terms of Winnipeg as a place to stay, I mean, certainly it's a hub for my family. My parents live here. A lot of my cousins were in Winnipeg already when we moved here, so we were quite familiar with the city from that perspective. Yeah. There's sometimes I question it where, I could pretty much work from anywhere. A lot of our members are based all over the place just because of the virtual nature of how it works nowadays. Yep. But, kids, bringing them up in a small community, and I think Winnipeg's underrated. You get the winters, and I get that at this time of year, you can sort of sour on it a bit, but there's nothing like our summers, and there's short commute times to get places. I think there's a lot of value here that people don't realize.
Yeah. It's almost like you can't really enjoy something until you have the exact opposite of it.
Exactly.
Right? Like we cherish our summers and everyone's outside getting as much as they can out of it. So family, you got your family's from here, family from Ontario.
Yeah, they're all from Ontario originally, but some of them moved here just because this is kind of the metropolis closest by. When you think of Dryden, the opportunity lies in Winnipeg. Whereas a Winnipegger thinks it lies in Toronto or West. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's our bridge to the big city is here. So I think that's part of the reason. Yeah. Some ended up here and some kind of followed us as well. Right. So I have 2 brothers and they both are still in the city with their families.
Yeah. I know Red Lake.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's kind of
a little north of there. Yeah.
Yeah. Close. We got a place up there. So growing up, were you entrepreneurial? Were you, did you have jobs? Were you good at them? What did that look like coming up?
Yeah, you hear the Gary V's and all that were natural entrepreneurs right from day one, and they were selling lemonade by the dozens. That wasn't me. Honestly, I kind of had the employee mindset growing up, and I wanted the safe path. And that's what kind of led me down some detours before fitness, was thinking, oh, well, got to get your degree in communications, get a safe job. And I don't know if it was so much my family influences or I was just hardwired that way. But for whatever reason, that shift happened when I took the leap in officially 2018.
Okay.
So I don't want to jump ahead too far on you, but, leaving the job, the safe job at the Rady, which had a fitness element to it.
Okay.
But, no turning back. That was the launching pad to the last 5 years.
Beautiful. And so, okay, so everyone that I've ever talked to has generally had one aha moment or a few peeled together that they kind of chalk up as that thing. So was there an aha moment that led to, your decision, or that not even the decision to just change career paths, but also just like, was there a big shift in your mindset? Because really it comes down to stories, right? Like you must have shifted from an old story to a new story to be able to have that, the balls to make a decision like that, right? Just tell me about that.
Yeah, well, I think initially it was just getting in shape, and you start to believe in yourself a bit more. Your confidence comes from within.
What led to getting into shape?
It's an interesting back and forth, but my brother brought home Pumping Iron, Arnold Schwarzenegger's DVD.
Yep.
And before that, I was a gamer, and I was 260 pounds, and the furthest thing from a healthy person, right?
Okay.
So just watching that and seeing him get inspired, kind of, I inched my way into fitness from there. And for whatever reason, it was a bit of a winding path, but finding the gym and lifting weights, that became my rock. And it's kind of a euphemism for life. The reps you put in day after day, consistency compounds.
Oh yeah.
So that's really what developed my mindset, I think, was that work in the gym.
Yeah.
Changing my body initially, and then it led obviously to changing careers and improving my life overall.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that. I think that I'm going to pick at you a little more simply because I think that there's way more people in where you were than where you are. So where you were, how did that look? Like you said, I inched my way into it. So take me through what was the journey from playing the video games at 260 to actually taking the action and getting the reps in the gym?
Because I was really good at the video games. I'd get the highest levels. I had commitment to that process.
Like when you're saying I was a gamer, you were a gamer.
Yeah,
you were good.
To grind it out. And I was in matches that people were watching in Counter-Strike, TFC. I'd gotten to like the highest level in the video gaming world. So I kind of parlayed a bit of that consistency and commitment to one task into, healthier pursuits.
Right.
Initially being, fitness and less time on the computer, more time in the gym.
Did your brother help, or was it just watching him?
More so watching him, because he actually kind of moved on from it too. And I just he was all hot and cold with things.
Yep.
And I was more inch my way in and just be the steady, the tortoise.
Yep.
And so that was the initial spark, but then it just became habitual, right?
Well, that's the tough part. So, was it something that, was it a commitment that you made to yourself? What was the first time in the gym like?
Pretty embarrassing, actually.
Yeah.
Loaded up a bench press with 185, like a plate and a half on either side. No business doing it. And literally got stuck on the second rep. Some jack guy in a hoodie came and helped me. And my first reaction was to just walk out and never come back.
Right.
But for whatever reason, he was actually quite kind. Kind of showed me without being, talking down, but more talking with me. Helped me kind of ease into it. And I think just having that little bit of help that first day in the gym was what got me comfortable to stay there.
Right.
And work my way up.
Yeah. My experience in the gyms has just been pretty much everyone barring, douchebags or somebody that's having a really bad day. Most people want people to succeed, right? Like, I understand being in the zone, and you don't want to, you want to go there and just kind of zone out sometimes, but there's been many times where people will go out of their way to help others, and it is a scary place if you don't know it, right? Like, the gym looks very intimidating, the people look intimidating, so I think that, and we'll probably get into that as well, is one of the things that keep people where they are and guessing or just planning in their head and never taking action. So Mitch Calvert Fitness, how did it come about? When did it start? How did it start? And how has it evolved?
Absolutely. So 2012, I met up with a guy who knew more about internet stuff than me, and we looked for domains, and mitchcalvert.com was available, and I wanted to start a blog. That was my full intention, was just kind of talk through how I lost the weight, and I had no real intentions of using it as a platform to coach people or make a business out of it. So that was the starting point, and my commitment to writing wasn't anything earth-shattering. Lucky if I got one post up a week. My mom and maybe my dog read it, right, initially. And, it wasn't like it immediately turned a corner. At that point, I was still in a communications job, and I was going to explore personal training, got certified, and went through some courses and that kind of thing.
Was that with the Rady or who?
Oh, not even with Rady yet. Yeah, I was still with Winnipeg Construction Association.
Okay.
In a PR position. Prior to that, I was a sports reporter. So the Rady job came about a few years later, and that kind of helped me, I think, make the leap, because I got really understanding of the gym concept and personal training.
Sorry to jump you ahead there.
Yeah, no worries.
So it kind of, it got you into it. You went from blogging, and then where did we go from there?
So in 2013, I believe, I got hired at the Rady Center as more of a management communications position, but with opportunities to potentially personal train there and learn the ropes to the back end of how their fitness operation worked. So I felt like that was a nice conduit. It was my number one interest. I woke up every day was fitness. I felt like those communication jobs, while safe, weren't serving me, right? So this was sort of my way of easing into starting my own business, because it was, still within a salaried position, but I can learn how to kind of build off of this for myself. So again, it was the slow and steady approach where I was building Calvert Fitness on the side now. Started to pick up clients, online platform, some in person, came to my home, and then I was juggling that with the Rady and newborn children. It got to a place where I got to take the leap, and it had built up enough clientele that I should have done it sooner. But for whatever reason, it finally came to a head in 2018 there, and decided to burn the boat, so to speak.
Well, fear will, I've taken that leap too, and it is something that it's something special. Like, it really is, to make that kind of decision to either leaves, the safety of a career, or even the safety of, it doesn't even have to be a career. It's the safety of our stories and the safety of what we deem life to be, that we are leaving from. We're leaping away from it. We're almost killing like an old self, right? And that is very scary. Like, the unknown is very scary. So you were building it up, and then what has it evolved into now?
Well, I would regret naming it Mitch Calvert Fitness, because it's now a team, right? So it's like CF coaching. We're kind of playing around with that. Never had any intentions.
CrossFit's like,
I know.
They're just ready.
They're already coming at me once they watch this podcast. So that was, certainly a limitation, is the name now. But I mean, we have a team of 7, a couple other coaches that work with me in different capacities.
Beautiful.
200 plus members, making a big impact. And I want to continue to make a bigger impact, so the sky's the limit, I guess. I don't know if I foresee an end game, so to speak, but I'm loving the journey right now. So just kind of taking it as it comes.
Mm-hmm. So in the last, I won't even say years, in the last COVID years, was that good for your business? Was it bad for your business? How did your business evolve over the last little bit?
Yeah, I would say it was good with a caveat, because a lot more people were looking for this kind of help with limited options. You know, gyms were closed. I already had a virtual system built out where I was coaching people from afar anyway in this capacity. So it just meant bringing in people from Winnipeg and coaching them the same way I would coach someone out of province.
Right.
So it certainly evolved into offering different pieces. You know, the Zoom Q&As and live classes and those sorts of things were all kind of implemented during this to bridge that gap a bit. But, you know, the in-person element is largely gone now. And that's just because that was what people preferred, you know, and it's kind of stayed that way. It hasn't fully gone back to the way it was before.
Yep. Do you find that, so talking about your growth over the last few years, do you foresee, where do you see your biggest potential for growth?
It's again, just kind of sharing your story, like showing up every day on social media, like those little videos, everyone comments on this, that, and that's what their first introduction to the brand was me just talking into the camera, you know, about something that resonated with them.
Yep.
So I think that's still where a lot of eyeballs are going to be, right? I mean, the Winnipeg Free Press column does get me a lot of interest. It's still there, but nowadays people are on their devices.
Yeah.
And that's where they're seeing you first.
Well, I mentioned you were coming on the podcast, and my brother-in-law stopped and he said, does he write for the Free Press? Yeah. So no, you're definitely known.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long have you been doing that for?
Well, that's a funny story. You know, when I put in my notice in November 2018, literally the next day, an email from editor at the Free Press that saw something in men's health, and we're starting a new local insert every Saturday. We're looking for someone to kind of fill the fitness void. And I swear it was putting in my notice that led to that opportunity, because it really came out of the blue.
Yeah.
Within a day of
the universe.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's it. So I really thought, okay, this reinforces making the right choice.
Nice. Very nice. What does your ideal client look like?
And that's funny, because initially it was all about working with dads kind of in the same stage of life as me, you know, competing priorities, career, family, start to get that dad bod, beer gut, and reversing that trend and kind of feeling like they're 20-something selves. But, you know, through just growing the business, a lot of women reached out too. And now, you know, we have coaches that are kind of more designated to women that understand their challenges more than I might. But it's hard to put a one, and that's, you know, everyone says niche down, right? Focus on one avatar. And you know, when you go local like us, we found we can have two different programs: a drop 2 sizes for the ladies, an transformation method for the guys. And we make sure that, you know, they're getting tailored custom programming in each that fits their needs. And now we have 2 offers for 2 different
but that's really just niching down in 2 different avatars, right? So yeah, I think that's fantastic. You could probably niche down to multiple avatars and still, because really the niching down is just about talking to the people, right? Yeah. And then them hearing it, like you had mentioned, Wake Up Warrior. I remember when I first heard Garrett speaking, it was like he was in the back of my head, right? And I mean, the amount of pain that I was going through didn't really allow me to be aware of what was happening. But after the fact, like now when I think back to it, the marketing was just world class because it was so niche down to like married businessmen with kids, right? And all of the issues that were happening with that thing. So, you know, speaking to dads, speaking to everything that you know, or niching down into something that you may not know, but now you are discovering and you're asking questions, and you may not be a woman, but you're certainly able to ask the right questions, right? Yeah. And figure that out. So, marketing, branding, you know, where's your head at with that? How much does it play into your life? I know that you've been in the online space or social media, at least for quite some time now, and have grown from there. So how has that changed for you? How much emphasis do you put on it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, certainly communications background and working in marketing for a gym gave me an advantage over other personal trainers, right? That just don't have that expertise. And I love to write. So that's a lot of how I get my message out there and how people kind of connect with me through the column. I share my struggles and wins, and that's sort of where people kind of resonate first with the message, because you can't really help them until you kind of sell them on what you're offering, so you have to kind of get those eyeballs first. I'd love to say I have a perfect strategy for it. I don't. I tend to just speak from the heart, and there's not like designated days where I do certain things. I know a lot of mentors I've had want me to be more concise with the message. So maybe that is a route we go down eventually, but it's more of a space to just kind of share and connect. Yeah. And I make sure I show up consistently. Email marketing, we're consistent with that too, because I like to write, and that tends to be a different avenue that's less distracted than the social media platforms where we can make connections. So it's a high priority. Show up every day, try to get new eyeballs, new conversations going, because ultimately that's going to lead to more clients. Yep. But there's not a real method to the madness either. Yeah.
Well, fitness is something that, everyone can kind of understand. Guys like Alex Hormozi, right? Really big into him. And it's interesting because I feel like you're able to, it's something that is so emotional and it can be so painful for people that getting down to that, because you have to, it's way easier to sell off of pain, right? Because once the pain of not changing is greater than the pain of changing, that's when something happens, right? Whether that's to make the shift in careers, or if it's just investing in a coach, or it's finally saying like, I need a change. So yeah, speaking to people's pain, I think you've been doing that, whether you do it on purpose or not, sharing your story about where you were, what life looked like and why you changed. That's just sharing your pain. And if somebody can connect to it, that's really going to sell them on it, right? It's also what I really like about the podcast too, is having people on sharing where they've been, because a lot of people are thinking, where do I start? How do we connect? I want to know people's background too, because everyone's in a different spot, right? So there's legitimately could be an executive somewhere that wants to be a fitness coach, and just like, well, no, that's stupid, right? I don't want to change, or I don't think I should, or anything like that. So the actual steps of it are quite important to know that like you got to take one step, you're going to suck, and you got to take it again, and you're going to suck a little less, and you got to do that over and over and over till one day you're like, okay, I'm pretty good, right? And that's the same thing with marketing, branding, speaking into a camera. Like I find that you're very good. I've spoken with a few people that you've reached out to, and they had no idea who you were. Like it was completely cold, and I respect that a lot, right? Because you have to. So there's like this dynamic part of hot and cold and social, and how do we even get them? How do we share that message and communicate that message? So do you yourself have coaches?
I do actually. Yeah. Business mentorship in particular, often the fitness coach too. Okay. Yeah. It depends on what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of maintaining. So no, Vince Del Monte, I don't know if you've known him. Yeah. Out of Toronto. Nope. He used to be a fitness coach. Now he's more of a mentor for fitness coaches. Okay. Yeah. Been in his program for a few years. And prior to that, Craig Ballantyne. And I can fully say without those two mentors, I'd probably still be counting reps in the gym and not have understood the idea that, if you really want to help a lot of people, you got to become more of a business owner. Yep. And, pull the strings a bit behind the scenes and get yourself out there more.
Isn't that a weird place to be? Hey, yeah. Like I really like doing this one thing. So let's create a business around it, which is a bunch of skills that, quite frankly, I just have to learn from scratch. Right?
Kind of like that first bench press when I nearly dropped the weight. You struggle initially, but you got to start or you never get better.
That's right. Yeah.
shooting your first video. I know people that kind of hold off and never start.
Yep.
And you only get good by doing, you know?
So how is it? So being a fitness coach right now, how do you find, with things like ChatGPT, right? Mm-hmm. So AI is coming out. They can legitimately create meal plans for you. They can create workout plans for you if you, share enough about what you want and who you are and stuff like that. Any bit of research or reading will tell you that if you want to lose weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit, or if you want to gain weight or muscle or any kind of mass, you have to be in a surplus, right? Mm-hmm. What is it about hiring a fitness coach that you see the biggest change in people versus them trying to hammer it themselves?
Yeah, because information is not my industry, it's implementation. I'm in the implementation business because everybody can get a halfway decent meal plan and workout online.
Yep.
It's actually acting on that and adjusting as you hit plateaus and having someone to talk you off the ledge, because you're going to hit a sticking point. The scale is going to be up randomly and you have no reason or why it's happening.
Yep.
So it's having that coach in your pocket to kind of tell you to trust the process, and then the community we've surrounded you with. Like, you're going to be around members that are 3-4 months down the road that have navigated those initial growing pains, and they're going to help you too.
Yep.
And it's those mindset shifts that I find are the most important for our members. The all or nothing, finding that middle ground, just believing in themselves. That's really what you're getting, the power of the hive, so to speak, from the coach and community.
Yep.
And that's what we've built. And I understand that concept, because that's the value in my mentorships. Hasn't been in the tactics. Mm-hmm. It's been in having another human that's already up a few levels from me, help pull me up and help me navigate that, and with the least growing pains possible.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. As far as anyone can research how to build a house, you can find anything, right? Why do you hire a builder? You can do it yourself, right? Mm-hmm. It's just, have you been there before? How many mistakes do you want? How long do you want it to take you? What are the landmines that you have no idea about, right? You had mentioned the power of the mind, and I'll use the word awareness. You lost 60 pounds. You had to figure out nutrition, and you've been able to help so many others do the same. What connection do you see? What connection do you guys talk about between a healthy lifestyle and a healthy mind being related to a healthy body? Like, how does this affect, how do you dive into awareness? Do you dive into the importance of the mind with people, how they talk to themselves? How, what does that look like?
Words matter. Yeah, every week we have a Mindset Matters coaching call where we kind of dig beyond the meal plans and workouts to the actually foundation of all this stuff.
Yep.
And that's actually one of the biggest breakthroughs most people have is, I feel so much better about myself just by doing this. I was always this negative headspace, waking up, telling myself I look fat in the mirror, all those things. Then you start to eat better. I think there's a connection between gut health and our brain as well. Mm-hmm. But you exercise, move your body, that creates a healthier brain as well. So I think it's massive. If you're not healthy in one area, you're going to see effects all down cascade effect, right?
Right. What's the hardest thing about being a fitness coach?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a tough area for people to commit to.
Okay.
Because their entire environment is set up to do the opposite. Sitting at a desk, in your car, or at a computer. So movement isn't kind of ingrained in our lifestyles. Food choice, you drive by all these tasty delights that smell great that are going to probably sabotage your plan, but you want to go out to eat and enjoy these social occasions, and you've got peer pressure to drink and eat. So it's helping these people navigate, know what they need to do, and doing it within the context of their reality, So that becomes a challenge to keep people consistent, committed, because everything in their life, people included, are pulling them in the opposite direction.
Yeah. I was a real estate coach for a while, as far as teaching people how to find houses, buy them, and flip them. I found that 90% of our calls were completely mindset oriented. about why didn't you do your calls? This is like, all you got to do is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. We can't move to step 3 before you do step 2. Why didn't you do step 2? Right? Well, it's something. It's this excuse. It's, I didn't know how to do it. I'm fighting with my wife, or, they don't want me to do it, or like she had me. It's something. It's always something, right? So I found that 90% of the calls were legitimately just mindset. Let's working through, what are the excuses? What are the stories you're telling yourself? What are the fears? Usually it's the fears, right? Yeah. What are people going to think of me? Jumping from careers, that's a big one too, right? Leaving the fire department with 900 people that I work with. There's not many people that leave the fire department, right? So that was one of the things of like, what are people going to think? What, so it's one of those things that's just, it's so important. And I find that a coach generally has to just ask the right questions, right? And being a coach is, a lot of the time, is just asking those right questions. And most people know the proper answer. Yeah. They generally, they may not know that they know, but they just need a little help to open the door or find it, or need somebody to talk through or something like that. So there's being a fitness coach, but then what's the hardest part about starting the fitness coach business?
Well, you feel it's a very saturated market. It is. There's a lot of fitness coaches. Yep. There's a lot of people needing fitness help. Yep. I would say we can all win. I don't think there's any competition necessarily, because there's billions of people in the world, and a lot of them need
every single person could probably use it.
Yeah. So I think it's taking that initial leap when all your family and friends are like, oh, fitness coach. Even now, when I say what I do, people don't believe you can live in a nice house and make a career out of it. Right? It has that perception. Yep. Whereas it's based on kind of the older model of, an hour of your time counting reps for someone, and not the holistic approach where you're getting giving someone a true transformation, mentally and physically. So that's sort of where we went now, is promising results and kind of standing apart from one piece of the industry, but bringing it all together. Yeah. Nutrition, fitness, mindset included.
Okay. I know that so I've hired multiple coaches in the fitness industry, whether that was like torch and running, or, just simply guys in the gym. A lot of the time I do it because I don't want to think. Either I don't have time to think things through. I want to show up, either be told what to do, or no, just look down and do it, right? Just like try to get into that zone, focus, and just hammer that thing away. I don't even want to think. Like, I'm really good at taking direction. I noticed this about myself. I don't like being told what to do. I think that's part of why I quit the fire department. Yeah. And started my own thing. But I'm very coachable. And I think that there's something too there that is, I don't know I don't know what's the determining factor between people, of whether it's the closed versus or fixed mindset versus an open mindset, as far as like, oh, I could always learn something, versus like, no, I know everything, because I know I don't know everything. But the best coaches that I've had have just like, I don't have to think. Like it's not true for everything as far as like figuring stuff out, but I know that me in the gym, I don't want to think. I just want to go. I want to zone out, and I want to do what I need to do. Kind of like running.
Yeah. I mean, you've got enough on your plate, right?
Yeah.
For young kids, that, offloading that responsibility to someone else, there's value in that, which is why I tend to find mentors in different areas that can kind of just give me a blueprint, because I know I can commit and work at it. But when I try to do it myself, sometimes I'll get lost by the sun, shiny objects, detours, when really I need someone to just tell me, stay focused on this thing.
That's right.
And that's what we do often for our members too, is things to do today in their app. Okay, there's a workout. They literally press start. They get it done. I can see when it's completed, and we check in if there's any issues on it, right? But it's kind of, simplifying the process, because there's so much information out there.
Yep.
You can find different things, but they're going to be competing, and you're going to get overwhelmed often.
Yeah.
You know,
from a business standpoint, are there any advantages or disadvantages from being based in Winnipeg?
Yeah, people will say Winnipeggers are cheap. I don't know if I, really fully commit to that message. I mean, compared to someone in Toronto or Vancouver, maybe. That hasn't been my experience.
Okay.
I find they value their health, people we talk to. So they'll invest in coaching when they know it's worth it for them.
Yeah.
Other than that, well, I'll go to events and they go, Winnipeg, really? You live in Winnipeg? And there's a bit of a perception that it's a second-class city.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's fair. But, someone that's in a big market thinks that way. Not necessarily beyond that, because the virtual nature of how we operate, they can be none the wiser to that, the fact I'm in Winnipeg, but I'm helping them out, and they happen to be in Vancouver, but we've got all the systems in place to get them the results, so they don't really care.
Yeah.
From that perspective now, with the tools we have available, that's eliminated some of that location barrier.
Beautiful. Are you looking at expanding more, internationally, globally? What's the furthest away that you're coaching people?
Well, I've had people as far as Singapore. I still like to think there's a lot of Winnipeggers that can use my help, so I tend to try to focus most of my attention locally.
Okay.
There's less friction to coaching someone and getting them to buy into you if you're in their backyard.
Yep.
I find there's a bit more uncertainty or skepticism if someone's far away and, you're not local to me. Even though they see the results of people in their area, it's a little harder to get them on board, I find.
Yeah.
But now we've got, I think there's 14 different countries on our current roster, but we still make our home base Winnipeg. It's still 75% of our membership.
Nice. So how do clients find you? Where do most of your clients come from?
It is a lot social media, and we still get, 15-ish opt-ins whenever that column runs in the Free Press, even though they have to physically type it in. There's no direct link from the website, right? That's how they operate over there.
Yeah.
Or they're physically reading the paper. So I think that makes
strong. Press the newspaper.
Yeah. Where's the QR code for
working.
this? Yeah, come on now. Let's get with the times. So it's a good mix of LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and I would lean Facebook is still the most fruitful in terms of quality conversations and consults.
Yeah.
But we get a mix from all three, so we don't really want to cut any of those.
Mm-hmm.
And then in person, word of mouth, referrals from members still plays a big role. And then whenever I do stuff like this, in Free Press and CGOB, we have a spot with Kevin Bergen.
Nice.
Every few weeks as well. So all that stuff it's hard to pinpoint directly where they're coming from necessarily, but we know it's a good mix of those.
Yeah. And what does the new client journey look like when they finally decide to reach out to you? Walk me through that.
So right from that initial consult, it's kind of determining what their motivations are. True motivations. Weight loss is what everyone says, but why are they wanting to do that in the first place? So peeling the layers of the onion a bit.
Yeah.
Often, it comes down to something deeper.
Yeah.
Kids, longevity, all those things. So right from that point, they're filling in a consultation, getting set up with our app. So there's a technology piece, right? So from there, within 24 hours, we're building out a sample meal plan. But what we really focus in on is a calorie and protein range for each person.
Okay.
So their responsibility is to tell me what they're eating day to day, and it populates in the app, and if they get their gold star, they're right where we need to be. There's often some challenges with that initially, trying to find that balance between calories and protein, or even understanding, what macros are.
Yep.
So that we make that the priority, is because weight loss doesn't, as you said, calorie deficit matters most. And if you're not doing that, all the other things are secondary.
Yeah.
Right. So the orientation is generally geared to get them dialed in on the diet.
Yeah.
And workouts are second.
Right.
And then introducing them to the community.
Okay.
And we like to do strength camps every few months, or smoothie night with a jet chef. We do try to bring a in-person element to it where they meet other people. And then I think that the power of that connection to others is what actually gets them over the hump.
Right.
not just the coach.
Yeah. In your industry, so there is a lot of information. There's also a lot of bullshit. So is there something that you believe that goes completely against what most people are talking about? Or do you simplify it enough that it's hard to actually speak bullshit?
That's it. We kind of call it the no BS approach to burning off the belly, right? It's about, we call it the big 5, and you hit those 5 things at 80% consistency, nothing else really matters, right? So obviously the diet, we call it the CAP nutrition system because we give you a range on calories and protein. So that's number 1. But water intake, everyone knows they should be doing that. We make that one of the 5. So 2 to 4 liters a day, depending on body size.
Okay.
Your movement, right? It doesn't have to be hour-long boot camps or running, 8 to 10,000 steps a day. So we
Just
standardize
move.
that.
Yeah.
They sync their wearable to the app just so we can see the averages.
Okay.
Sleep, most are way undervaluing that. And we actually want them sleeping for 7 hours, not in bed for 7 hours, but actually proven by a sleep tracker that they're getting 7 hours of sleep. So that usually means getting in bed with at least 8-hour window.
Is that like Whoop strap?
Yeah, or a ring,
Okay.
which is what I use. Most have the Apple Watch.
Okay.
So we've had that integrated into our app.
Nice.
So that's, was
Why
that
is-
4? Or
Why? That was 4.
Okay, so we got, it's the workouts, of course, strength piece.
Right.
Because you want to lose body fat, not just weight, muscle, fat, water, whatever, and try to force that scale down. You don't want to look like a bag of milk at the end. You want to be nice toned and have a high functioning
That
metabolism.
was like me
right?
while running.
Exactly, yeah.
I was like,
So now you're back to big guns. So that's the key, is the strength, right?
It came back really quickly though.
It does.
Like I remember how fast it came back. And actually, guys, I'm at the squash club there, and there were guys that legitimately were looking at me being like, "Are you taking anything?"
Right.
I was like, "No, this
Muscle memory is a wonderful thing, right?
Yeah, this is
Those are
actually
there.
what I looked like before I started running like a madman.
Yeah.
And not eating properly. Yeah, it was
100%.
very interesting. What do you think though is the biggest lies out there that are hurting people?
The big one nowadays is like this carb phobia, where you have to cut carbs. Everyone I talk to is like anti-carb, but they're eating a ton of fat, to compensate.
Yep.
And potentially your triglycerides can go, the wrong direction. It does work for some. If you find your diet, you prefer mostly fat to carbs and you function well energy-wise, workout-wise, more power to you. I just find the majority who come in have lost a lot of weight but gained it back just as quickly through that approach.
So they're fighting between fats and carbs when you're like, eat some protein, dummy. Make sure you get your protein and then don't worry about this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't eat too much of it.
Don't have them even look at their carb and fat as long as their calories are where they need to be and the protein is where it needs to be. Personal preference beyond that.
Isn't that funny how you can simplify it quite enough? And there's, for the 80% of people coming in, the simplest method is the best, right? Like let's not, of course, there's the 20% that are elite or that are, athletes or, really want to hone in on their bodies, their diets, their performance. Okay, let's get granular in this stuff. Let's worry about your 5 versus 7% of fats and this stuff. But just realize it. I don't know really when it was, but really focusing on knowing that, okay, let's focus on your protein. Look at your calories, your total calories, and that's it. Like, let's just focus on that. If you want to gain. If you want to lose.
Yeah, 100%. And that's who I work with, is kind of average Joes, for lack of a better word, that have other priorities. They don't want to have fitness consume their life. They want to fit this into their current life. It's not the bodybuilder preparing for, to get on stage. More power to those people. That takes a lot of discipline. And there are good coaches for those people. But I tend to like going out for dinners and enjoying my breakfast and dinner with my kids and not having to eat a separate meal.
Yep.
So I can build a system that kind of works for that reality and still get you good results.
Yep.
It takes a lot less work than people realize. Often they are really overcomplicating, busting their butts, doing a lot of work, but not the right kind of work.
What I've noticed and been very either successful or not successful at was when I look at stuff and knowing that things are most things aren't complicated, right? It's very simple, but it's not easy to be consistent. And I think that number one thing, if there's anything that I've noticed in my life that has been successful, it's because I was consistent at it. And whether that's fitness, whether that's being a father or a husband, right? Being consistent at things is really where you're going to find your biggest, at least from my standpoint, your biggest gains. And I can imagine that's a lot of what you're seeing. Is there anything that you wish people knew about you or your company, and where you want to go that they don't?
Yeah, well, it's on our wristbands, actually. You have one there. Consistency compounds. The message is simpler is better. And we like to have people, obviously you have to sell the weight loss because that's what motivates people initially. Dropping 2 sizes, feeling better in their skin, looking better naked, all that stuff. But you actually give them what they need on the inside, which is a better perspective on life, on themselves. And those breakthroughs that they eventually have that have nothing to do with the scale or their pant size are really what we're about. And you see it in a lot of our client wins week to week is, I just feel so much better about myself. I didn't realize this was the true prize. Mm-hmm. I was so fixated on this being a weight loss program, and sure, I got that, but this is actually where the value was. Mm-hmm. And you can't really sell that. It's not tangible, but it really is the secret. And that's why I went to this in the first place, because I realized the 180 I went through, I was such a victim when I was heavy and losing the weight. I just took control, took responsibility for my life. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. I'll fight you on that point that you can sell that, because what you have to do is paint the picture, right? And if you speak about the pain enough that people are in, whether they know it or not, and you show them the possibility of what life could be, you're the person that comes in and connects those two things, right?
Right.
So it's really your job to communicate. I understand your pain, and I also can show you this. This is how. And that reminds me of something that Gary Brecka with 10X Health.
Yep.
So it was funny. I was listening to him talk, and he had somebody in there. They did their oxygen therapy, their red light, all their stuff, right? Yeah. And the person was like, "Oh, I feel so amazing. This is awesome." And he's like, this is how you just feel normal."
Right.
Like this is how you should feel before all of the toxins and before not moving and eating shit and yada, yada, yada. Like this is how you should feel, right? Your mind should be clear. You should be rested. You should be excited about the day, right? All of this stuff. So I always think of that as far as like.
That's a good takeaway. Yeah. Because people, they've been feeling like crap for so long. It's their new normal, right?
That's right.
Sleeping 5 hours, medicating before bed, the effect alcohol and things have on your quality of sleep. You don't realize what it does. You don't get into a deep REM sleep, all that stuff. So once you've kind of improved your lifestyle, even for a few weeks, it's a night and day difference. That's the stuff that happens more immediate than the weight loss, which is more of a gradual process, whether you want it to be or not.
It's the result of the actions taken is the weight loss. Like it happens because you're doing all this other stuff.
100%.
Amazing. So as somebody that has now created their own business and is running this company, you're growing the company. How do you think about, balance in your life? Okay? You're a father, you're a husband, you own a business, where does that fit in?
Yeah. And that's one area I've kind of struggled with through the growth of this, is taking time away from it for my big priorities in life, which are my daughters, my wife. And I haven't always been perfect at that, but what's really helped is like fixed time slots and, time blocking my calendar. So phone goes in airplane mode at 5 p.m. until 8 p.m.
God bless you.
Yeah. It's tough as hell to do. It is. I don't always win that war. Let's be honest.
No.
But it just was important for me. Even in December, I was dieting hard. It was the end of a diet, which I've gained it all back over Christmas, but it was the end of a diet, and business is going hard. Family, kids were sick, and it kind of came to a head where I was having insomnia some nights, and I was not taking care of myself like I tell my members to take care of themselves. So it really took looking in the mirror and kind of refocusing on what matters. And I finally got back on the tracks here with better structured days, things that I've started to get away from just by the nature of
getting back to the basics.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah. No, it's I think it was Gary Vee that had a perspective on it, and he's like, listen, you're never going to be in balance, right? You're always going to be harder on one thing than the other. You're going to be on either hard family mode, hard business mode. And whether that's true or not, who knows? But I think that the most important part is being intentional about it and saying like, here's what I'm going to do, and then doing it. And if that involves, spending more time with your family or less time, it's also sharing that with them too, right? Of saying like, listen, this is what's going on right now.
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to be home at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock every day. And I'm going to be working late or whatever it is, for a little time there, it was me traveling. Or if, or if something changes in our staff, right? Okay, well, we're going to have to find someone new. I'm going to be training more. I'm going to be taking spots, right?
Yeah.
So I think that intention is probably the most important part about any of this. So you had mentioned kind of your day. What does your day look like? Are you a routine guy? Are you not a routine guy?
Yeah.
Is it like, water, eat coffee? Do you wake up early? Do you sleep? How does it look?
Yeah, it's very rigid.
Yep.
Scheduled out. I don't even need the alarm to go off. It's roughly 6:30 a.m. I've tried the 5 a.m. club. It didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I like to go to bed a little bit later because I get a little time with the wife after the kids are in bed, and that's important. So 6:30, water, about a liter of water, coffee, sit down at my desk, and magic time, focused on work. And it's not emails or anything like that. It's more the content generation.
Yeah.
That first hour, whatever I'm working on, if it's a column or emails. Yeah. So that becomes the first piece, first domino to fall. And then the rest of the day is more scheduled. There's time to get the kids out the door, of course. I'm home for that. I work from home. So I would like to play a role in that. And it's important for me to be, have that little time with them first thing. And then we go into consults, emails. It's all in my calendar, spaced out. Not that it falls in perfectly in line all the time, but having that structure really helps guide me. So I'm not wasting time in between things and trying not to, multitask, because that doesn't seem to work well for me.
Yeah. Multitasking murders my day, murders my life. I'll put my head down at 8 a.m. and if I'm not careful, it's 5 p.m. And it's just like, oh my God, what happened to this day?
Yeah.
I was in the 5 a.m. club for a long time, 5 years. And I was always tired.
Yeah.
I would fall asleep reading my son's book.
Yeah.
Like at 7:30. I'm falling asleep as I'm reading.
Yeah.
Like the words are coming out of my mouth and I'm falling asleep. And so just recently, I think starting in December, I was like, you know what? I'm going to get some more sleep.
Smart.
And so I've been trying to get like 7 or 8 hours of sleep. Nice. I don't think we've dialed that in yet. I think I also have to go to bed earlier. My wife likes to stay up late. And so I'm the same way as far as like you put the kids to bed, at least you can have some time together.
Yeah.
But then, life comes into play. And sometimes, I used to like going to the gym early, like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And my daughter's been getting up like 6.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not home. And I'm like, here we go. My wife's pregnant. I'm just like, okay, there goes my schedule.
Yeah.
It is really tough to be rigid with young kids. Young kids really throw your life into a spin because, like you said, they are kind of, well, I guess if you're intentional about having them your number one priority, right? Yeah. Then everything else kind of takes back seats to it. But For you, what has your biggest influences in your life, mentors, coaches, people, books, anything like that? What have been the big ones?
Yeah, well, certainly books, like it's changing my perspective. The Magic of Thinking Big, anything by Napoleon Hill, all that Secret to Success stuff, right? That I see some there. Yeah, those were huge.
Some good ones there.
And sometimes I just revisit the classics because you forget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like to be a book a week guy, but I'll strategically pick 10 for a year, read those. I like mentorships with other human beings, like I kind of touched on. Craig Ballantyne was my initial mentor to jump from personal trainer to online fitness entrepreneur. And he helped me kind of structure my days better, also free up a lot of that time that was spent personal training to build a business and coach people in a different capacity. So several years were spent under his watchful eye. Now I'm in Vince's group because it actually puts me around other coaches doing the same thing as me, which is, it's hard to find that are just online at this level.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of you start to believe, okay, well, I'm actually playing small compared to that guy. So you start to realize you can do more, and you feed off that energy too.
Yeah.
Kind of that mastermind concept.
Nice.
So that's been real valuable for me in the last few years, not to settle too much.
What's the biggest difference when somebody's coming in, whether they're looking at somebody who's predominantly online versus someone who's more in person and doesn't have that same online presence? Is there a difference? What would you tell people?
Yeah, it kind of depends on what you need personally, right? Like my goal is to teach people to fish so they don't need me forever, whereas some just like to have an earpiece to listen to them, and they get a workout too, but it's a bit of a kind of almost like a therapy session in some respects, right?
Paying for a friend.
Yes. And there are certain types that just want that, and they're not going to get that with me.
Right.
I mean, in a group format they will, but not that in-person scheduled sessions. So it's someone that has a little bit of a background in working out, but they know they need the accountability. They need a system that's going to work for them long beyond the coaching relationships end date, right? Yep. So that's where people tend to not have a full understanding of how it works. Some people, they think personal trainer, they think clipboard, counting reps. Whereas transformation coach was kind of where I put myself is I'm going to get you a specific result in 90 days, but I'm also going to teach you everything I know so that when we're done, you keep the weight off and you keep going. These habits are built.
Yeah. What is something or is there anything that I'm completely oblivious about that I haven't asked you about that I should, when we're talking about, fitness, being a fitness coach, building that business in that area?
Yeah, I think it's, one thing is the marketing, and that's important, but you got to have a good product. You got to get people good results. And this industry is notorious for not getting people good results, not across the board, but in general, they can show you how to, eat your chicken and rice and do 6 hours of cardio a week and get fat off, but keeping it off.
Mm-hmm.
That next phase. And that's actually where we often are convincing people as soon as they get in the door. Yeah, we're going to get you a result in 90 days, but we're going to show you what maintenance looks like, how to kind of build muscle and tone and kind of enjoy this process more without having to be in a calorie deficit, without having to be so rigid with your life. And that exit strategy, reverse diet, whatever you call it, is where most people, they don't look that far, even though they probably should, because that's actually where you want to be most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Is kind of having some balance, enjoying your meals, still exercising, still drinking your water, doing these good things.
Yep.
But not feeling like you have to lose weight every week.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a client testimonial process?
Yes and no. So at the 6-week mark, generally we do kind of a check-in call. At that point, depending on where they are, we might ask them some generalized questions, and it's on Zoom, so that can be recorded and pieced together into a testimonial.
Yep.
We'll do more of a survey, more formal survey approaching the end of 90 days, and then based off that until we might have a follow-up interview. Where we get our most testimonials is when we do our in-person camps, and then I'll have a video guy there, and we'll pick and choose 4 willing volunteers to tell their story, and we have kind of a sequence of how we want that story to come across, but it kind of goes in the direction it does.
Yeah, that's something that we are not. It's not that we're not strong at, but I would find that a lot of my clients, because video testimonials are the gold standard, right? And to have somebody, sit down and give that amount of time is quite a big ask, especially when we're married for more than 2 years. And so I get a lot of people that, it's not that they're introverted. It's just that they're, a home is a really weird, sacred thing to some people that it's theirs. They don't want many people either. It's not that they don't want people in them. It's like they don't know who's looking at their home, right? They don't know. Right. So it's really weird. And I think that's one area that I can get a lot better at, is being a lot more systematic in getting either quoting my clients or being able to showcase them somehow rather than just the sit down video testimonials. And that's one place that I'm haven't had enough time to. Yeah,
I'm trying to think. I mean, we do a Wins Wednesday in our group. It's through the app, so it's text.
Yep.
Right? But we have approval to kind of screenshot those, and we just plaster those into our stories all over the place, right? Because it's sharing the small wins that happen every week that more people are actually going to resonate with.
Yeah.
The big dramatic before and after picture, there's still some disbelief that actually was real and not photoshopped. And so you use them, but I find often the screen grabs and the videos of someone just talking off the cuff for 60 seconds goes further than the big before and after.
That's right. Yeah. Well, 55 5-star reviews on Google, right? Over 1,000 case studies. I think you've got something going on. I think what you're building is quite impressive, and I'm sure it's going to just get even bigger. Before we end, is there anything that you'd like to touch on that we haven't?
No, I think you're a pro at this. You ask all the right questions, and I appreciate the opportunity. I really feel like I'm leading from the heart with this business, and getting people results first and foremost is my priority.
Yep.
Of course, you want to provide a good life for your family, and that's part of the deal. But I'm not chasing the money here. I feel like this is what I'm destined to do for now. Maybe that'll change in a few years. Who knows?
I don't think chasing the money is a bad thing, as long as it's tied in with your heart and your purpose.
Yeah.
Because you do know that you're offering something that works, and when you're honest about it and you know that it works, like it's very easy to get behind it, right? So, especially using yourself as the not the guinea pig, but as the model of like, this really does work.
I can confidently sell it because I know people are going to be better for it. As long as they come in and meet us halfway, carry half the bricks and commit to the process, it works.
Yeah.
Right. So there's not snake oil being sold here.
No, I think that and that's one thing too, is that I think that's a big either mindset or words or story that, like, people that take the time to build a company and build a business, it's important to make money. It's important to make money, and it's important to charge accordingly, if not even more, because when you make more, you can put more back into the process and create an even more valuable customer experience process. There is no benefits of undercutting yourself. There's no benefits in undercharging. There is only negatives. When you either overcharge and you're putting it back into your experience in your company, only good things happen unless you're a piece of shit. Right?
Yeah.
And that's where companies go wrong, when somebody, instead of reinvesting in their staff or their processes, they're out buying a Lambo or some sketchy thing that's trendy. So I do think you should be making lots of money. I wish you all the best, and I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And hopefully anyone listening to this can connect. Where do people reach out to you? How do they find you?
Well, we still got MitchCalvert.com.
Yes,
the original URL is still there.
Beautiful.
So that's the website, even though people say everyone checks out social media first, I would go to the website, grab that free metabolism jumpstart we got on there. No strings attached. There's no upsell on that piece.
Would you think about a rebrand? Is that something that you're considering?
I am.
Not that I don't know. I'm just, you mentioned it.
Yeah, well, it's sort of became more about the business than me, right? So then there's some limitations there. I'm not looking to sell it down the road necessarily, but it would probably be better suited to be if it was
I understand.
more of a generic message, right? Not tied to one person.
Yeah.
So not CF, because I think we'll create some copyright issues with that, but we'll have to do some heavy thinking on that.
Yeah, interesting.
Down the road.
Okay, well, we'll be watching, and and hopefully we can share once that, if and when that does happen.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, thanks so much.